Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman that we go way back, and I guess you probably say I go way back with a lot of my guests, but this is one I can truly say that we go way back. Days growing up there in Cannonville, Georgia, and attending Troop High School and all of the other various activities that we've been involved with. I have none other than Mr. Chalton Askew, who is the Executive Director of Racial Trust Building. Chalton, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alton. It's my delight and privilege to share this space with you today. And, you know, being a native of LaGrange, Georgia, it's a small town, so it's no accident that you know all of your guests.
That's right. That's so true. Well, you know, and like I say, Chalton, we grew up, we went to what was at that time Troop High or Troop County schools, and they had the city schools, so we were a very fortunate product of those Troop County schools. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, then we're going to jump right into our subject matter today.
Certainly. So I'm born and raised in Troop County, attended Troop High School, as you said, and then I'm a product of LaGrange College, along with my wife, Connie, who's also a retired educator from Troop County school system. I was an employee at Interface for 30 years as a cost accountant, and now I'm an executive director for Racial Trust Building. Okay,
very good. Now, Chalton, I know that Racial Trust Building was started some years ago, and it was started by Chairman Ricky Wolf at the time and State Representative Carl Epps. Talk a little bit about, give us a little bit of background about Racial Trust Building.
Certainly. So the commission chair and the mayors of the three cities, West Point, Hogansville, and LaGrange, met on a monthly basis, and what they determined is votes seem to split along racial lines with their council members. Mm-hmm. And so they set out to explore why that happened. And it took a lot of courage to take that bold step, but we're excited that, excited's probably not the word, but we're appreciative of the courage that they took to step forward and begin the dialogue and conversation. And to be honest, we're still exploring that. We're still trying to get to some of the root causes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's so important that, you know, this has been something that's going on in our community probably 10 years or better now.
Well, the conversation probably got serious in 2014, and in 2015 it took shape.
Okay. Oh, okay. What's the mission and the vision for Racial Trust Building?
So the mission is to shrink the racial divide in Troop County through research, collaboration, and action to remove barriers that prevent full access to opportunity for all. So we envision a community where everyone gets to be who they were supposed to be without restrictions and barriers, and creating that thriving community that we have. And it takes all of us being very intentional, mm-hmm. not to skirt around these topics that hold space and hold occupied divisive, I'm going to say, ideologies and thoughts. Mm-hmm. And we can do better.
Absolutely. Now, and you mentioned we have to be intentional, and you talked about barriers. So it sounds like we need to be intentional about removing those barriers, and I know that you have seen some of those things that can be barriers to helping us to be the full community that we are proposed to be.
Absolutely, and barriers are different for different people. Mm-hmm. It's different for different socioeconomic statuses, and what's a barrier for some is not directly a barrier for others. And I think that's where our empathy and our compassion is. Are we okay with someone else being blocked or prevented mm-hmm. from fully thriving in this community?
Mm-hmm. And you know, and I know that you all have workshops, you know, on a regular basis, and I know that you all just recently finished up a workshop, Transforming Historical Harms, a narrative change approach to community and societal transformation. Talk a little bit about that for me, if you don't mind.
I certainly will. It's quite a long title,
it is.
But it's a very impactful, it's an eye-opening workshop, and it's conducted by Dr. David Anderson Hooker out of Atlanta, Georgia. And he's the most frequently requested guest presenter that we've had. The community keep asking for him to come back. Now, if you haven't heard him, you've really missed a wonderful opportunity to go deeper on this journey of understanding and dissecting the barriers and the racial gap. So I think the premise, I love this, the way Dr. Hooker presents. He's a very smart man. At one point, he was the Assistant Attorney General for the state of Georgia, so he's has a master's in divinity, he's a lawyer, he was a professor, all of these different hats he wears. But one of the metaphors he uses in the workshop is that stories are like cars and narratives are the highways that the stories travel upon. And we all have our individual stories about how we view life, and that with those stories and the narratives that become generally accepted by communities, whether they are real or not, that we start governing ourselves by those narratives, and we apply meaning to the narratives based on our lived experience. So many people that come from different experiences will apply different meanings to narratives. And I would relate to that as we interpret things differently, which sometimes create relational barriers where we have perceptions and we don't go deeper in relationship. And I think the harmful side of, I'm going to say incorrect narratives, is we make decisions based on those interpretations. And if we're in a leadership role, we could have the right intent, but end up with the wrong impact.
Okay.
And if we inform our narratives, which that's where diversity comes in. If we don't have a view from people that's different from us, that live different from us, then we'll think that we're making the right decision for everyone without realizing that we are perpetuating and sustaining barriers in the racial gap.
So it sounds like we, because you say the interpretation, you and I can have a piece of paper with the same thing on it, but we can read it and interpret it differently.
Absolutely.
And so we have to be able to be open-minded to hear my interpretation as well as the interpretation of others within our circle.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's what he was talking about, cars and the narrative, the stories and everything, how you get there, right? And I think once we all understand that better, then we can say, we're saying the same thing, but we just interpret it a little bit differently. This is what it means to you. This is what it means to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're inundated with other people's interpretations. I'll say social media is a pro and a con. Yes, it is. It's a vehicle and a tool that we can share a lot of positive things, but also we find in that mechanism many things that perpetuate division and cause us to react out of someone else's interpretation. And I think those are the areas that we're asking the community to say, let's dialogue, let's talk to each other about differences, and so we can get a better understanding, and we can think, show up differently in our community to help just take us where we all are trying to get to,
Absolutely.
individually, but we can get there together. And I think one of the power questions I've heard Dr. Hooker ask in this workshop is, do we agree to share the future together?
Wow.
And he's not asking, do we agree on a shared future, but do we agree to share the future together? And once we agree that we are going to share the future, then we can start strategizing and talking about what does that look like and how do we make it happen.
That's powerful. Do we agree to share the future?
Yes.
That's very impactful. Now, and I know there's an acronym here. We talked about what does it mean by historical harm, and there's some things there that you all pointed out, and how you can address those things. And you have down here facing history, making connections, healing wounds, and taking action. Dive into that for me if you don't mind.
So facing history, we're seeing that history is coming real close to us today in a way probably that turns our attention away to some extent. And I think that's a good starting point, because many of us already have an established baseline of what history is based on how it was taught to us, or the stories that got passed down, or the narratives that we accepted as truth, not really understanding whether they were true or not, and not really analyzing whose perspective of this truth is missing and absent. And so the dominant narratives seem to be what everything is judged against. And so facing history might be re-examining those narratives to see, are they full flourishing? Are they really true? Do they include everyone, their stories, and everyone that lives around me in my community? Mm-hmm. And making connections is important because our identities are always relational. Mm-hmm. You know, they relate to someone else, whether it's family, siblings, co-workers, friends, and they're expressed in that manner. If we don't have anyone to tell our stories to, then you know, we don't change. We need connections with people that work for common causes and good. And history is painful. Mm-hmm. You know, in America, in all of our families, there are some painful pain points that need to heal, and hopefully from these connections we can heal as we go and heal as we grow. Mm-hmm. And taking action is, to me, just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. As we get ready to close out, I know that there's a couple of books that you wanted to mention, Charlton, to invite our listening audience to pick up and read. The first one is from a local native here of LaGrange that we just recently learned about last month. Dr. William F. Picard is Surviving the Shift, 7 Proven Millionaire Moves for Embracing Change and Building Wealth. The first book that you want to mention.
So I was excited to learn that Dr. Picard even existed. He resides in Detroit, but this was his 3rd book, and he wanted to release it in his hometown. It's the only book that he's released in his hometown, so LaGrange College had him in to talk about the book. And I actually started reading it. I'm not done yet, but it's very motivating. And I think particularly as an African-American male, when you see someone from a town you grew up in break through all of the glass ceilings and the barriers that have been in place and be highly successful, it's stimulating and it's motivating. So I would say to anyone to please purchase and read the book and share it, especially with younger people that are still in the process of determining what their adult lives will look like and building their future.
Absolutely. As we close out, the last book is by Professor Neil Goss, Walk the Walk, How 3 Police Chiefs Defied the Odds and Changed Cop Culture. And LaGrange was one of those locations?
So LaGrange was one of the 3 cities across the nation that Professor Gross featured in the book. That book was just released, and I'm excited to read it. I think I pre-ordered it on Kindle, and I should be probably moving to it next. And also we're looking forward to inviting him into town to talk about it, but he interviewed a number of people in LaGrange a couple years ago when he wrote this book, so it's finally released. Yes, okay. So please read that book.
Good. And I know that as we close out here, you guys will continue to have other workshops, so they just have to stay tuned when those dates are coming up, right?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of, this is a very busy town, which is really good. And what I try not to do is overlap with too many other activities, just to be cordial and respectful of those. But for upcoming events, you can visit our website, which is www.racialtrustbuilding.org. And we also have a Facebook page that's the same, Racial Trust Building, on Facebook. And a website, you can sign up for our mailing list and keep abreast when I send out newsletters, and in the events tab will show anything we have planned. Okay. So periodically we'll have some breakfast in between those workshops to have local subject matter experts, and I invite and need many of you who've never participated to come experience the work that we do and help us to grow it in this community. Absolutely.
Well, Chalton, I want to thank you for being my guest today. Wonderful topics. Definitely look forward to the upcoming workshops, and I'm going to make it my goal to attend one of those in the near future. So thank you once again for being my guest today.
You're quite welcome, and I'm going to hold you to that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more City Week coming up in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to jump on over to Visit LaGrange and listen to Lynne Holle as she gives us a rundown of all the upcoming Easter week events that will be taking place in and around LaGrange. Lynne, let's hear all about it.
Good morning. Welcome to City Scenes. I'm your host, Lynne Holle from Visit LaGrange. Today we're going to be talking about the events that will be happening in and around LaGrange during the week of April 3rd through April 9th. Let's get started. Saturday, April 8th, from 9:30 a.m. until 11 a.m., Community Easter Egg Hunt at New Hope Baptist Church. Come out for a free community Easter egg hunt. There will be bounce houses, balloon animals, face painting, and of course egg hunting. Hawaiian shaved ice food truck will be available with yummy shaved ice to purchase. New Hope Baptist Church is located at 4050 Roanoke Road, LaGrange. Also Saturday, April 8th, from 9:45 a.m. until 4 p.m., Empty Tomb Tour and Garden Meal at the Biblical History Center. After a visit to Biblical History Center, you're sure to leave with a new understanding and appreciation for Holy Week. Walk through life-size replicas, view rare antiquities, and even visit recreations of Jesus' tomb and cross. Experience life in Jerusalem. The biblical meal is a 4-course meal consisting of 15 different food items, including soup, salad, fruit, main course, dessert, and all beverages, grape juice or water. Our tour guide will explain ancient meal practices, including Passover and Last Supper, and the setting of the table for reconciliation. All this will be done in a first-century style dining room. If you would like to take part in this wonderful Holy Week experience, please RSVP and you will be notified with further instructions. The cost is $64 Deposit of $30 is due on or before April 1st, and the balance is due on the day of the trip. Payments can be Cash App to Seasoned Saints. Direct all questions to seasonedsaints3675@gmail.com. And finally, on April 8th from 1 until 4 p.m., an all-inclusive Easter egg hunt at Lafayette Christian School. Pay It Forward 2K15 will be hosting its second annual community-wide Easter egg hunt. There will be fun activities, a wooden egg race, sack race, flag football, playground, etc. Kids will be able to get their faces painted, free ice cream, candy, and snow cones. Prizes, prizes, prizes. Lafayette Christian School is located at 1904 Hamilton Road, LaGrange. Those are just a few of the Easter events happening in and around LaGrange for the week of April 3rd through April 9th. We hope you can get out, have fun, stay safe, and have a happy and safe Easter.
Lynn, we want to thank you for giving that list of rundowns of all the various events that will be taking place in and around LaGrange over the Easter weekend, and I hope that everybody will have a very safe weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, also, I hope that you've enjoyed my guest this week. I had on from Racial Trust Building Initiative, the Executive Director, Chalton Askew, as he talked about the recent workshop that was held, Transforming Historical Harms and Narrative Change Approach to Community and Societal Transformation. Very long topic that was hosted by Dr. David Anderson Hooker from Atlanta, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed this interview. And as always, I want to make sure that you come back and listen for more City Week, but also make sure that you go out and attend some of the upcoming Racial Trust Building Initiative workshops. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week this week. We look forward to seeing you again.